Right, let's talk about fighter jets. Not just any old planes, mind you. We're talking about Jinduan, the absolute pinnacle of pointy, noisy, and terrifyingly expensive aviation. For decades, two global heavyweights, the USA and Russia, have been locked in a monumental sky-high arm wrestle. It's a battle for air supremacy, a contest to see who builds the meanest, fastest, most lethal flying machine. Because let's be honest, if you control the skies, you pretty much control the argument. This isn't just about bragging rights down at the pub, though there's plenty of that. Having the best fighter jets means your pilots come home, and the other chaps, well, they don't. The technology involved is mind-bending. We're talking materials lighter than your underpants, but stronger than a landlord's resolve, engines that could suck a golf ball through a garden hose, and computers smarter than most politicians. And the cost? Don't even ask. So who is winning this particular space race, but with more explosions? Is it Uncle Sam with his bottomless pockets and obsession with gadgets that goping? Or is it Mother Russia, with her reputation for building aircraft that can do ballet moves at Mach 2 and operate from a muddy field if necessary? Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy and very loud ride. First up, from across the pond, the Americans. They do love their technology, don't they? And when it comes to fighter jets, they've certainly thrown a colossal amount of money at the problem. Their star player, the F-22 Raptor, is so advanced that Congress actually banned its export. It's properly stealthy, ridiculously fast, and can turn on a sixpence. Then there's the F-35 Lightning II, the Swiss Army knife of the skies. It's supposed to do everything: attack ground targets, fight other planes, gather intelligence, probably even make a decent cup of coffee for the pilot. The only snag: it cost a fortune, took ages to develop, and has had more teething problems than a baby vampire. But don't forget the old guard, the F-15 Eagle and its newer variant, the F-15X Eagle II. This jet has been around since your dad was in flares, but it's still an absolute beast. The new X version is bristling with even more missiles and a fancy new radar. The American philosophy seems to be built around overwhelming technological superiority. They want to see the enemy before the enemy sees them, shoot them down from miles away, and then fly home for a celebratory donut. They invest in networks, in data links, in making sure every pilot has as much information as possible. It's all very clever, very sophisticated, and, as we've established, very, very expensive. But when it works, it's undeniably formidable. Now let's turn our gaze eastward, to Russia. If the Americans are all about delicate high-tech scalpels, the Russians are more about building a very effective, very sharp axe. Their latest and greatest, the Sukhoi Su-57, codenamed Felon by NATO, is Russia's attempt to muscle in on the stealth fighter club. Then you have the Sukhoi Su-35 Flanker E, an aerial gymnast. It can perform maneuvers that would make your stomach churn just watching them from the ground. The famous Cobra maneuver, where it practically stands on its tail in mid-air, is pure airshow gold, but also potentially a lifesaver in a dogfight. And we can't forget the MiG-31 Foxhound, a guided missile with a cockpit. Its job is simple: fly incredibly fast, incredibly high, and shoot down anything that dares to intrude into Russian airspace. The Russian approach to fighter design often emphasizes ruggedness, raw power, and extreme maneuverability. They build proper pilots' airplanes, machines that demand respect and skill to fly well. Right, let's talk about stealth, or, as the marketing departments like to call it, low observability. Basically, it's the art of making your multi-million-dollar fighter jet as invisible as possible to enemy radar. The Americans are, without a doubt, the current kings of this particular dark art. The F-22 Raptor was designed from the ground up to be incredibly difficult to detect. The F-35 too incorporates a huge amount of stealth technology. Now the Russians, with their Su-57 Felon, are definitely having a crack at this stealth game. They claim it has a significantly reduced radar cross-section compared to their older jets. However, many Western analysts are a bit skeptical about just how stealthy the Su-57 really is. The thing about stealth is, it's not an invisibility cloak. It doesn't make you completely vanish. It just makes you harder to see, and harder to target, especially from a distance. Section 5. Speed and twirliness. Who's got the moves like Jagger, in a jet? Speed. It's one of the first things anyone asks about a fast jet. The American F-22 can supercruise, which means it can fly at supersonic speeds, above Mach 1.5, without using its gas-guzzling afterburners. The F-35 is also supersonic, though not quite in the F-22's league for raw speed. And then of course, Russia has the MiG-31, which can hit speeds approaching Mach 3. But speed isn't everything, especially when you get into a traditional dogfight. That's where maneuverability, or twirliness as I like to call it, comes in. The Su-35 with its thrust vectoring engine nozzles can perform some truly astonishing aerobatics. The American F-22 Raptor is no slouch in the agility department either. It also has thrust vectoring, and combined with its powerful engines and advanced aerodynamics, it's an incredibly nimble machine. The F-35, on the other hand, has faced some criticism for not being as agile as older fighters like the F-16 it's meant to replace. Its supporters argue that with its advanced sensors and stealth, it shouldn't need to get into a turning fight in the first place. So, who wins the speed and agility contest? It's complicated. Section 6 guns, missiles, and things that go boom, the pointy end of the stick. Alright, so you've got your stealthy, super fast, twirly jet. What good is it if you can't actually, inconvenience the enemy? We need to talk about the sharp bits, the weapons. The main event in modern air combat is the air-to-air missile. The Americans have their AIM-120 AMRAAM, a very capable and widely used missile. The Russians naturally have their own impressive collection of skyrockets. Their equivalent to the AMRAAM is the Vimpel R-77, codenamed Adder by NATO, and they're known for developing some very long-range missiles like the R-37M, which the MiG-31 can carry. Who has the absolute best missile? That's a closely guarded secret on both sides and probably changes with every software update. But what happens if the missiles miss, or if you get really close to the bad guy? Well, that's when you remember that most fighter jets still carry an old-fashioned cannon. The Americans typically use a 20 Vulcan rotary cannon, which can spit out thousands of rounds a minute. The Russians often prefer a heavier-hitting 30 cannon. It's the last resort, the aerial equivalent of a knife fight in a phone box. Section 7. The brainbox computers, radar, and not getting lost. Flying a modern fighter jet isn't just about yanking a stick and pressing the loud pedal. These things are more like flying supercomputers with wings. The avionics, that's the posh word for all the electronic systems on board, are incredibly complex. We're talking navigation systems, communications gear, flight controls, and crucially, the systems that help the pilot find and destroy the enemy. A key piece of kit is the radar. Modern fighters use AESA radars, active electronically scanned array. The US is generally considered to have a lead in AESA technology, with systems like the APG-77 in the F-22 and the APG-81 in the F-35 being exceptionally capable. The Russians are not far behind though. Their Su-57 and Su-35 are equipped with their own AESA radar systems, like the N-036 Byelka on the Su-57. The Russians also have a habit of fitting their jets with secondary radar systems, like cheek-mounted radars, and infrared search and track systems. Then there's sensor fusion. This is the F-35's party trick. It's incredibly ambitious, and when it works, it's a game changer. Section 8. In the real world, when push comes to shove, hypothetically mostly, what happens when these metal birds actually meet in anger, or at least in highly realistic training exercises? Actual combat between top-tier American and Russian jets has been extremely rare. Most data comes from regional conflicts or controlled war games. The American F-15 has over 100 claimed victories and no losses in air-to-air combat. The F-22 Raptor has seen limited action, mostly in ground attack roles. The F-35 has also been deployed, primarily against ground targets. Americans conduct massive training exercises like Red Flag. Russian jets like the Su-27 family have seen plenty of action. The Su-57 and Su-35S have been deployed in Ukraine. Both sides gather intelligence on each other's capabilities. Encounters in international airspace are closely watched. Real-world performance isn't just about the machine, it's about training, maintenance, support, tactics, and political will. So, who's the governor of the sky? Your guess is as good as mine. Who comes out on top in this colossal aerial ding-dong? The Americans, with their F-22S and F-35S, bring serious technological clout, superior stealth, advanced avionics, and a networked approach, plus a massive budget. On the other hand, the Russians. Their Su-57 is a serious fifth-generation fighter. Jets like the Su-35 are phenomenally agile. but it's almost impossible to give a definitive answer. These top-tier jets have never gone head-to-head in a full-scale war, so who would you choose? The stealthy Americans or the agile Russians?